Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our weekly TLC Live. We are streaming in our platforms in Facebook and in YouTube simultaneously. And today I am by myself. Orlando Sanchez is enjoying Greater Montana, so he's taking a little bit of time off. But we have a special guest today because we want to keep talking about our Latino and conservative values. That's why I invite Marta Dos. She's joined us today from San Marcos. Marta, welcome to TLC Live.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Okay, well, we want to hear a little bit of your background, but for now, I'm going to tell you guys that Marta is an immigrant. She's from Mexico, Durango, Mexico, and she came to this country when she was 3 years old. And the reason that we invite her is because, recently when she became a US citizen in 2017, and she started showing very out loud, not only in social media, but in her community, that she is very conservative. And that is having consequence in her life, not only with the family, with friends, but also with people in her community. And that's why we invited her, and we want to get to know Marta Dos and why she has or she become with these out loud conservative values, and and why it's important for her to participate in not only in politics but encourage her community to also participate in politics. Marta, welcome, and we want to know a little bit about you.
Okay. Well, I am a stay-at-home mom, four children. Actually, my oldest will be 20, and I have another daughter that's 18. She's fixing to go into college. I've got a little girl that's 7 years old, and my son, who is 3 years old. I have a business from home. I offer legal and identity theft benefits. It's truly been a blessing to be able to work from home. And I never, if you would have asked me if I would ever be involved in politics, I don't know, 8 years ago, I would never have imagined that I would be where I am today. I got started in politics simply because I started paying attention in the 2016 election and started watching the news, and I started, seeing that Hillary Clinton was running against President Trump, and seeing her policies and President Trump's policies, and I started seeing how the media was really attacking him, and just they were treating him very unfairly. And at that time in 2016, I actually was not able to vote yet. My husband was able to vote. And I remembered I actually followed the election a lot more closely than he did. And what really alarmed me, and really I would say was the starting point for me in politics, is seeing that she was promoting late-term abortions. I've always been pro-life as far as I can remember. I was 17 when I found myself pregnant and had my first daughter, who's going to be 20 tomorrow. And I just couldn't imagine why she would be pushing, late-term abortion. And I kept remembering praying on election night and pleading with God to not allow this woman to get elected, because I knew that if she got elected, there would definitely be a lot of, injustices happening to the unborn.
So here I don't want to talk about so and so, the president or the candidates and anything, but the most important thing, and what I see in your comments, it's the values, the conservative values, that you're defending those conservative values regardless who is the candidate, or regardless who is the president, or regardless who is in the Democratic Party or in the Republican Party. Is the values that that you consider is part of your family, of your life. But when you realize that that's what you feel that it's part of you, the conservative value, when you realize that, I don't know, how did you grow up, or in your family, if you guys talk about politics or about these values that later on in life you realize that that was along with the conservative values?
I was raised Catholic. I was raised in a Christian household. I've always remembered, as far as I can remember, have had those values installed in me of putting God first, and taking care of your families. And as I mentioned to you, when I was 17, I found myself pregnant. My family was always very supportive of me keeping my baby. So I guess, I've always known that, but I never really actually, compared, the two platforms or anything like that. Um, so that's what I would say, when I was younger, but I never was really, politically active or anything like that until recently in 2016.
You became very popular not only in Texas but also national. Everybody got your attention. I saw you in the newspapers, on TV, and in English and Spanish. And that was after 2017 that you become a U.S. citizen, and finally, for the first time, you were able to vote. I don't know if you vote in 2018,
I
and
did.
now you're gonna vote in 2020. So tell us what happened that the media just was after you, and your story got attention.
Um, I think so, because I've held a couple of rallies here in San Marcos. And as you mentioned earlier, I'm very loud about my conservative values simply because I want to promote education, especially with our Latino community, because a number of them don't realize that they are, conservative, because the media, you know, tries to brainwash them, indoctrinate them into thinking otherwise, right? And I remember in 2018, as a matter of fact, I was helping, Senator Ted Cruz, and I was out there and I was putting signs in the government center. And I remember a gentleman came up to me and only spoke Spanish and asked me who I was going to vote for, whether I was going to vote for Ted Cruz or Beto O'Rourke. And I said, well, of course, Ted Cruz. And, because they're not really informed, he said, well, why would you vote for Ted Cruz? Isn't Beto the Hispanic? And I'm
Hmm.
like,
No.
no. And he said, well, explain to me, why are you voting for Ted Cruz? And I didn't really explain to him, like, in detail why I'm voting for Ted Cruz. I just explained to him, I said, well, these are my values. I am pro-life, I'm pro-God, I'm pro-America. Um, and I want to know, is that something that you agree with? Or are you pro-choice? And he said, well, no, definitely not. I've always been pro-life. I believe that, children come from God, were his exact words. And I said, well, that is the conservative values. You're actually conservative. So by all accounts, you would actually be voting for Senator Ted Cruz. And I remember we exchanged phone numbers, and he wanted me to let him know when the next election cycle was coming up, because he wanted to get registered to vote. He wasn't even registered to vote. He was trying to go vote, but it was too late. He had already missed, the deadline. And I've held, like I said, a couple of rallies here in San Marcos, just trying to promote Christian values and just trying to inform them what's the difference between both platforms, and sharing with them the dangers of socialism. We definitely don't want to be a country that goes backwards and, you know, has socialism ideology. I think that would be detrimental for this country and for our children and for our families.
I'm an immigrant from Colombia. You're an immigrant from Mexico, and you just pointed something very important. I'm terrified about socialism, and
Same here.
my country right now is going through a difficult times after we are one of the few Latin America countries that it's not socialism, but apparently it's going that way. Um,
Mm.
but I'm terrified about that. And I came to this country looking for better opportunities. I didn't come here when I was little. I came here when I was already 25 years old. I finished my college in Colombia, and I started my life here. You came when you were 3 years old, but um, when I was reading the article that one of the Spanish networks did about you, they were like in shock, pretty much, or showing that how come somebody that was born in Mexico, that is a Latina immigrant, that he just became a U.S. citizen, it's it's promoting conservative values, and that's why it become a news for them. And then after that, you got a lot of people that, some attacking you and some were in favor of you, or they were like, supporting you. So tell me about that, because when you read the articles that it was made about you in English is completely different that is and the articles in Spanish. They're like the Spanish is like, how come you are
Hmm.
promoting conservative values if you are a Latino immigrant? And for them, it's like, it's not possible.
Well, that's funny because, yeah, you're right. When I have been interviewed, whether it's Telemundo or Univision, as a matter of fact, we went to a rally in May. It was the Open Texas and Open America rally, and he was completely shocked. He said, I don't understand it. You're Hispanic, and I'm like, well, Hispanic has really nothing to do with it. It has to do with, our values and what we believe in. And I don't believe in open borders. We are living in completely different times than when people were trying to migrate here, let's say in the 80s. And even if they were doing it, illegally, back then they were doing it because they want to work, and they, like you mentioned, the opportunities. And now we have dangers with having open or borders. We need to really know who's coming into this country, because we have, the drug cartels. We have people that don't have good intentions for this country, and as well as I was seeing that they want to restrict our rights to bear arms, and that's very important for me. I live out of the country. I want to be able to protect my family, and as I mentioned to you, I'm very pro-life. I actually consider myself an abolitionist. I want there to be a day where we completely abolish abortion. And so when I explain all these things to them, they get taken back and they're in complete shock. And as a matter of fact, I remember one time when I did an interview in San Antonio, I believe it was Telemundo, when I started outlining all the reasons why I am a Christian conservative, the reporter, I can actually see him go to his cameraman like this, like, cut
Got it.
it, like, cut it, cut it. And I was shocked, and I was like, wow, I don't understand why he does not want his viewers to see, another different
Point of
perspective
view.
and point of view. But also, I want to be able to promote within the Hispanic community that it's okay to be Christian conservative, it's okay to be outspoken, and you don't have to shy away from it. You don't have to hide from it. You can be proud of it. And so when I'm in town, I live in San Marcos. It's a small town, a small college town. When I'm at Sam's, or when I'm, anywhere, I wear a T-shirt that promotes Christian conservative values. And I can't tell you how many people come up to me and they thank me, because they too are Christian conservatives that are Hispanics, but they've been really afraid of being vocal about it, because you're right, people get attacked left and right. When the Dallas Morning News article came out in December, I can't tell you how many nasty emails I had gotten through Facebook. I didn't take it personal, because I know that a lot of these people that are attacking me, they don't know me, and as well as they probably don't even know what they even themselves believe in. Um, I I believe in putting God first, and I believe that God called us to be able to push forth His agenda, because I believe the Christian conservative values are pushing God's agenda. So I know that God's in control over it all. I used to get hurt in the past, but not any longer. I actually lost my best friend, who was my child's godmother. So you really do find out who your true friends are, because if they are your friend, they're going to love you and respect you no matter what you believe in, and they will stand behind you and still support you regardless whether they have the same beliefs or not. I have one friend that is, you know, a Democrat, and we still can have healthy conversations about the things that we agree with or disagree with. I've had practically my entire family has stopped speaking to me because they think that I'm some radical Christian, but again, a lot of them haven't even really participated in voting or being involved, in politics. But I guarantee you, because I know the way that we were raised, the way my grandma raised us, because my mom worked two jobs, so my grandma helped raise us. That if we look at both platforms, that I know that it will check almost every single box. That you are a Christian. By all accounts, I think naturally most Hispanic community, we are Christian conservative, but it's just that it's sad that we don't have a Christian news network that is in Spanish for our Spanish speaking community to be able to express our Christian values and share a different, like you said, point of view.
So, now how's your relationship with your family now?
Well, in the beginning, in 2016, my sister stopped speaking to me, and she's my twin sister. And there was times that I would actually, you know, try to discourage her from speaking about politics. I'm like, Erica, we really necessarily don't have to talk about this. Let's talk about something different, because I knew where it was going to go. We recently, by the grace of God, and it was only by the power of God, that we rekindled our relationship as sisters, and we're growing closer. And little by little, she is understanding why I fight for Christian conservative values. And if I point to the direction of her nieces and nephews and explain to her, this is what they're doing to our schools. This is what they're wanting to promote in our schools. Are you okay with that? With your, 8-year-old little daughter? I mean, I'm sorry, my 8-year-old daughter, your 8-year-old niece. Is it okay with you, the things that they're wanting to show her? They're wanting to teach her about, LGBTQ and this new radical sex education program that they're promoting in Austin. And she's seeing it. She's like, wow, no, definitely not. That's definitely something I don't want my nieces and nephews to learn. I've had to block a lot of my family because they started attacking me, and they don't have anything of value to bring to the conversation. It's always insults. And when you start insulting me and calling me names, I'm just not even going to try to engage in a conversation with you, because that's not a healthy conversation. So I don't speak to hardly anybody in my family other than my sister and my brother and my grandma. But I've been shunned from my entire family, my aunts and uncles. We don't get invited any longer to the Christmas parties or
Wow.
the quinceañeras. But I'm okay with that, because I know God's doing something, and I'm going to be obedient to what the Spirit of God has called me to do. And I know that I have a huge family that supports and loves me. I may not be blood related, but I know that I have a lot of friends, and I have a lot of friends from church that support, the work that I do. And I've actually been blessed with just wonderful relationships that I never would have met had I not been on this journey.
Two things very important that you just talk about it: information and
Mm-hmm.
education. So
Information
you
and
think,
education.
yeah. So you think, and that's one of our missions in the Texas Latino Conservatives. Inform the community, educate the community, encourage the community, uh, because what we see, especially in our Hispanic community, it's a lack of information. It's a lot of misinformation,
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a lot of brainwash that we're when we watch the news in Spanish, when we read articles in Spanish, especially in Spanish, and but some of the media also in English are pretty much the same thing. But I think we're just the Hispanic community. We just go of whatever we hear, and en español lo llamamos el teléfono roto. ¿Has
Mm-hmm.
escuchado esa expresión, el teléfono roto? So,
Mm-hmm.
el teléfono roto quiere decir que te dicen algo y luego tú lo transmites diferente y la otra persona lo transmite diferente y cuando llega al final, la información es completamente diferente. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's we hear something and I see it with with my parents sometimes, with my mother especially, that I hear something on the news and I like, no, mom. I mean, it was a little bit a piece of information, but not the rest. So I think we just hear something and we don't dig inside of that. Like, I mean, like, let me investigate if this is true or not, and then let me see if that's what I feel that I go with it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a brainwash. I mean, you were telling me about the interviews with the Latino or the Spanish media, and they were like, okay, cut. I mean, they cannot
Mm-hmm.
be. They're not objective, and this is not the journalism and y el periodismo is a completely different thing these days, and they just tell you what they want to tell you. They don't tell you. They
Right.
don't go with facts, right? So, do you think that's part of that why the Latino community is not really going to vote or not participating in politics?
Yes, I mean that definitely has a lot to do with it, and as well as I see that the media just paints a lot of fear in the Hispanic community. Um, so yeah, I just wish, like I mentioned earlier, I wish that they had a Christian conservative network, or an independent network. But majority of the networks in Spanish are very liberal based, and so that's all they're hearing. That's all that's going in their ears. They don't have anything else.
Now we're going to talk about education because back to school is around the corner. This year 2020 2021 is going to be completely different for our kids. We already finished the last school year completely different, something unexpected because of the pandemic, um,
Hmm.
and pretty much we're going to start completely different, something that we never experienced in our life. So I was seeing one of your posts, and everybody's been talking either online or go back to school like the regular school. And I've been seeing one of your posts that you decide to homeschooling your kids. You're a mother of four, two, I believe they're already in college or graduated from college, but the other two is still in school. So why you decide to homeschooling your kids? Because many parents are saying, "Oh, I want to continue online education because they're afraid of the virus," but you decide not. I'm going to take my kids completely out of the system and I'm going to homeschooling them.
Well, I've actually been thinking about homeschooling since last fall. Um, I just have not been, I would say, obedient to what God was calling me to do, because I had doubts whether I could do it or not. But God was just showing me the signs. It's time. It's time to homeschool. It's time to take your kids out. There was just several factors that really played to me making that decision. Um, One is, like I mentioned, is that a lot of the schools here are wanting to indoctrinate our children. Even I have my oldest, she just graduated. I saw it in the high school. I'm already seeing, and then seeing it in the elementary schools in my daughter's high school. And I remember specifically in the 2018 election, um, my daughter's teacher was very vocal about her, liberal beliefs, and had nothing to do with the subject that she's even teaching. And so to me, I just feel like, I did, it made me uncomfortable. Is what I'm trying to say. It made me uncomfortable that she was sharing her political beliefs with my daughter when education should be solely just about education. And then my daughter's elementary school has started showing their support for LGBTQ, and I see in the Austin schools, the things that they're promoting, and it's only a matter of time before they're going to start promoting those in our schools here in San Marcos, because we're only a town away from Austin. Our entire school board is very extremely liberal, and a lot of them are also wanting to implement a radical sex education program that actually would begin at third grade. And that is the grade that my daughter is going into this year. My daughter started coming home, and I noticed that she was singing this song that was very worldly for me. And I asked her, I said, well, where did you learn that? And she's like, well, I learned it during PE. And I was like, your PE teacher had that song on. I know what the lyrics mean, but she doesn't know what the lyrics mean. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And I'd like to not repeat the lyrics live, but I was just completely shocked. And then she started sharing with me that one of her little friends was showing her, TikTok videos. And those are
Oh,
the things that I have no control over. I have
yeah.
no control over, the things that she's seeing in her school.
Hmm.
And another big, huge reason was also she was reprimanded by her one of the school administrators because she was praying out loud.
Mm.
Um, and that actually goes against her First
Mm.
Amendment and religious beliefs as well. And I had to get involved. I wrote a letter to the superintendent that she has a right to practice her faith, whether she chooses to pray or not. And she was told she
Yeah.
was not allowed to pray in her school. So those are the reasons why I just decided, well, you know what, if I homeschool, then I have control over the curriculum. I have control over putting God in our agenda. They want to put in, the LGBTQ agenda. They want to put in, all these things, these radical sex education. In our agenda, we're going to put God first. That's how we're going to start our day, putting God first, our daily devotion to God. And are you there? I'm sorry. I had to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
had to. I had to decline a call. I had a call coming in.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
putting God first, and I'm going to have control over the things that she's going to learn, the things that are going to come in her ears, which I otherwise won't have control over in her schools. And so I believe that one of my favorite scriptures is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I'm a little bit nervous because I've never attempted, but I do believe that we can achieve and do all things through Christ who strengthens us.
Well, you pretty much, the last 6 months we've been homeschooling our kids, no? Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I think that
Right.
was a good experiment for you to decide or to make a decision that you're going to homeschool your kids. What is your kids say about it? I mean, they agree, they like it, or they're like, well, mom, please no, let us go back to school. Because one of the things
Right.
that I'm a mother of twins. My kids are 15 years old. They are they're going to be sophomores this year, and I've been seeing that they've been taking advantage or being more productive during online school than when they were
Hmm.
at school. But that's my point of view and my feeling as a mother. Of course, I understand my kids when they say like, "Yes, mom, but I wanna have memories." As we all did. When we used to have our friends in the school, playing in school, hanging out,
Hmm.
chismes en la escuela, hablando con las amigas,
Hmm.
jugando con los amigos. So of course they're gonna miss that.
Right.
But and that's something that is easy for us to say, hey, you're more productive online. But because we are an
Hmm.
adults, and of course we want the
Hmm.
best for them, but
Hmm.
we cannot take that away from them also. So what is your kids thought about it?
Well, in the beginning, she was a little, discouraged. But I started, sharing the things, the exciting things that we're going to incorporate that she would not be able to do, during her class or public school that they would not allow to do. I just started sharing, I understand, but, we also have this community that is homeschool kids that we can meet with once a week. And you'll get to meet other kids that are being homeschooled. And I just started sharing how, by us being homeschooled and letting God take control, that we're going to get closer to God, and we're going to get closer as a mother and daughter and as a family. And, last night before she went to bed, she prayed and she said, in her prayers, God, I just want you to bless our homeschool. And then she looked at me and she said, I'm actually getting excited about, homeschooling. And that just warmed my heart. So now she's getting there. She's getting excited about it.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
okay. Well, we want to hear from you guys. That's why we want to hear from you guys. Like, what is your thoughts about going back to school? So we want to invite you guys to go and visit our Facebook page, the Texas Latino Conservatives, and participate in our poll, back to school poll. So, are you for online, or you're for in classes in person? What are your thoughts? I've been reading a lot of comments. We have more than 150 comments, and it's very divided. People say, "Oh yeah, I'm ready," and some people like, "No way, I just want to keep my kids online." But I understand, Marta, and you were mentioned at the beginning of this streaming that your parents were working two jobs at a time because they need to feed, and they need to feed their family and put food in their table. So I hear our community in the same struggling situation. They have two, three jobs. How are they going to homeschooling or online school? Because it's practically the same thing when you have little kids. In my case, I don't have to babysit my kids. They just know what to do. They need to wake up and they need to attend the class every hour. But when it comes to little kids, the one in pre-K, kinder, or elementary, it's so hard for the parents. So I mean, it's so easy for us to say, yes, online school is better or homeschooling is better, but it takes a full attention and full time for the mother, at least, or the father, or both of them, or they need to coordinate their times. So it's not an easy thing.
It's definitely going to be a sacrifice for me. Because as I mentioned to you earlier, I have my own business from home. So I'm going to have to structure my business at the same time, homeschooling. But I am very blessed that my husband works full time. So I'm able to stay at home, with our children. Um, yes, I know that it's going to be a little bit challenging at times, but I know that if God's behind it, that He's going to lead the way and He's going to make a way. The Bible teaches us that with God, all things are possible, and we serve a God that is able. So there's definitely, explore different options, whether, even if I had to work nights and my husband stayed at home during the day with the kids, like we're going to have to make this work, you know what I mean? Because I don't want to lose my kids to the school, to their worldly views, and I don't want them to be confused. And the way I see it, more and more, if you don't live in a conservative town, a lot of these schools are just going to confuse the minds of our children because you have to understand that a lot of the school teachers now, they're not, there to educate. A number of the school teachers are political activists now that
Yeah,
they're infiltrating in our schools now
yeah.
to indoctrinate our children.
And not only that, I mean, we worry about education, but many people also worry about the virus, and it's completely understandable. And I was reading this morning an article that it came from Georgia. Georgia is one of the first places that start opening their school last week, and and I saw that one of the pictures went viral from one of the students from high school. She posted a picture on the hall the first day of school. It was very crowded, no social distancing, and many of them it was not wearing masks. And she got suspended, and then the director of the school, say, I'm sorry, it was our mistake. And now today I was reading that they're gonna go back to online. They're putting everybody in quarantine. It's gonna be
Mhm.
online because after a week of school, they have already 40 cases of um,
Wow.
of COVID-19. So that's a big fear that our community has. And so far, we have our judge, Harris County judge, that said it's mandatory for all the schools started online and go back to normal, which is nothing is normal these days, but go back to school on a September 8th. But I guess everything changed every day. And I
Yeah,
think
you
at the
don't know what to
beginning of
expect.
September, we're going to see a different decision probably. But
Mhm.
I know we got the letters from the school that they're already taking measures, man, and they bought a lot of masks and equipment and everything to do different scenarios for the kids. And something that they're testing the water because they never did this before. So we don't know how it's going to be this year for sure. Everything is going to be like hypothetical, and we're learning this year of many things. um, okay, well, we're about to finish this streaming. I want you to talk a little bit about elections is around the corner. It's
Mhm.
November, presidential elections, and it's a very controversial year that we're living these days. And I never saw this before. This 2020 has been crazy in every single aspect. So tell us about your position. You run for a position, and now you're about to take place on that position. And what can we do as a community and to encourage, to inform and educate our Hispanics, our Latino community to participate in politics? And then when I say participate in politics, I don't want to tell people go and vote conservative or don't vote conservative, but vote. That's the
Right.
only way that we can make a difference in this country. Bring, we need to, the ones that we have the privilege to be a US citizen of this country, we need to vote. This is very important. So let's finalize with that. Tell us about your position and what we can do as a community to be active in politics and let our voice to be here.
When I'm having conversations with people, I always ask them, what is important to you? What things are important to you? What changes do you want to see take place? And after you found what's important to you and what you want to see take change here in this country, or whether it's in your community, start researching, the local candidates that are running for office, whether they're running for city council or whether they're running for school board or whether they're running for to be your next state representative. Research those candidates and see if they align with your core beliefs. Get behind that candidate, and when you get behind that candidate, help that candidate get elected. You can help them in several ways, whether sharing their social media posts in local chat groups, or maybe you're the type of person where you like to be more involved and you can help them door knock, go block walk for that candidate, or phone bank. Maybe you necessarily don't like to have that person to person interaction, especially with, this, I get it, with this pandemic.
Yeah.
Phone bank, they can send you a list via email where you can call your local neighbors or community and ask, for their votes. And so that's, what I do. I never stop sharing things on my social media platforms. I'm always sharing about, an article that is important to me. And, maybe I have friends there that think differently than me. I share it because I want them to see, what's happening as well. And so just have, conversations with people. I have conversations with my sister now that I never thought that I would be able to have, because
At
like I
least you're
said,
talking to her now.
yes, at least we're talking now. Because in the beginning, it was very hostile. I'm not exaggerating. It was very hostile, where she's screaming and I'm like holding the phone and I'm like, okay, she done, yelling at me. But now I can have those conversations with her and share with her, what's taking place in our schools, what's taking place in our communities. I see that, with COVID-19, it also did a lot of things. It's actually opened up the eyes of many people of, what's happening in our communities, certain liberties that they're trying to, take away. And so, like I said, it's important to research your candidate. And after you research your candidate, get behind your candidate, help your candidate, get elected. Um, as I mentioned earlier, I never would have imagined that I would be in politics if you would have asked me 8 years ago. And so now on August the 20th, we'll be elected, actually be sworn in. I'm already elected. I'll be sworn in as my precinct chairwoman of my precinct. Get involved with your local party, whether it's Democrat or Republican, and you want to support that platform, become a precinct chair of your precinct. What a precinct chair does is, you help your local candidates get elected. You help them by, as I mentioned, by phone banking, by block walking, by putting yard signs out before the election. So on the 20th, I will be sworn in as my precinct chair.
Very good. Well, Marta, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you so
me.
much for sharing your story. It's amazing for those that turn our Facebook Live or TLC Live late after Marta talked about her story. Marta is an immigrant from Mexico, Durango, Mexico. She came here to this country when she was 3 years old. She's a mother of four. And in 2017, she became a U.S. citizen, and before that she started feeling and aligned with the conservative values, and now she is very out loud talking about her conservative values, and she posted everywhere in social media. She has a lot of problems with her family and friends, but she stand for her thoughts and her values, and on what she believes. And she participated in the elections in 2018, and now of course she's going to participate in 2020. And this is very important because, Marta, I wanted you also spread the voice for the Texas Latino Conservatives to become a member for the Texas Latino Conservatives to our PAC. That it's an organization that we don't only educate, informate the community, but also encourage the community to participate in politics. But we also encourage and support and fund um, candidates or leaders in the community that want to be the voice for the Latino community. I want to be a candidate on as a precinct church, or they want to be a council member, or they want to be a mayor of a city in Texas. This organization is in Texas, so if you know that anybody that has all the skills but don't know how to start, so that's what we do. We teach them how to raise funds. We teach them how to speak in public. We teach them how to deal with the media. We teach them how to just go and get registered for that position that they want to run. So I wanted you to help us. I know you're very active in social media, so that's so let's get together and let's grow this family and these values and these thoughts as Latino conservatives.
Absolutely. I'll be more than happy to share it on several pages that I'm a part of.
Also, okay, well, thank you so much, Marta, and thank you so much, everybody, for watching us every week. And as I mentioned, please go to texaslatinoconservatives.com and, well, just go through the page. We have information in English and Spanish. Become a member. That's very important for us. Like us on Facebook, like us on Instagram, like us on Twitter, and follow us in all the social media and support us because, as people say, the only way to save Texas is with the Latinos. So we need
That's
to
right.
get together as a community and be stronger than ever. Gracias a todos y nos vemos el próximo miércoles. Thank you. Bye bye. See you next Wednesday in TLC Live.